Today's video, we're going to be checking out the new Asmus toys. This is the Premier Leather Devil May Cry 4 Dante 1/6 scale collectible action figure. Let's find out how tall Dante is, and then we'll have a look at all the stuff that he comes with. The figure itself is about 12.5 inches high. For display stand options, he comes included with a circular display base, which has some nice flooring deco on the top there, and some very nice intricate scroll work around the outer parameter here. The neck is just a standard adjustable crotch clip. I do find, though, that the actual tubing, the neck portion of it, doesn't stay very well in the hole here. It almost feels as if the hole isn't big enough, but I do have to apply a lot of pressure to kind of get it to stay in place. And from time to time, I do notice that it does come out fairly easy. This is for the standard release Dante, but included as well, the figure gets an advert here, and kind of just a walkthrough instructions as well. But it also shows you the special edition Devil May Cry Dante that has this additional piece down below. And if I can show you, here's what it looks like down below. One of the fallen creatures, in which the figure can stand atop of that. And again, this is only available in the deluxe version exclusive that comes for the Dante here. When news first broke that Asmus Toys was going to be approaching the Devil May Cry series, I was super excited. Yes, long before the days of playing God of War, long before the days of playing Bayonetta, I used to spend countless hours on my PlayStation 2 playing the Devil May Cry series. I think I might have even picked up the Devil May Cry 1, 2, and 3 as a box set, perhaps at Best Buy, but I used to spend countless hours playing that game, or those games. And really, now physically seeing what Asmus Toys had planned for Dante, I have to admit that the figure does not disappoint. So where do we start? Well, why don't we start with Dante's head. The head sculpt, though slightly covered over by his hair, is a really faithful representation of how Dante appears, at least in Devil May Cry 4. I think the face sculpt is really nicely done, very small on the eyes. He's got actually very fine features and a slightly pale sort of skin complexion. He's got a little bit of stubble, which hopefully the camera will be picking that up, both in the mustache and chin area, and then he's got a little bit on the sides there as well. I do like the slight imperfections of skin tone that they used in there, some rosier colors around the cheeks, and slightly almost a more grayish sort of skin tone, which again fits perfectly for Dante. Despite not really being able to see the eyes all that well, hopefully you can make out how nicely presented the eyes here are done on this 6 scale figure release. The hair is kept otherwise short, slightly short, almost feeling as if it's a slightly more rubber material that they used for the hair. The hair doesn't seem to have much in the way of gradient hair tones. You can see that there is slight discolorations between some of the shades of the gray and a slightly more darker blue-based gray that sits around the root area of his hair, and more importantly, around more of the bottom tips of his hair where it gets a little slightly darker there. No, I can't really say that there's anything I really would change to it. I thought at one point getting it out of box that the eyes were maybe a little too hidden by the hair, but that's really the way that the character is represented, and I think Asmus Toys did a bang-up job here. For his outfit, we'll just move away his jacket here. Dante has a zip-up, almost zip-up outer coat with some really nice buckled straps here on the front. He's got his holsters on the sides that will be carrying his firearms. Then he's got a pair of leather-like pants, black chaps, leather-like, I'm not quite sure the term for these, but it's almost like boot covers where you can see that they've been zipped over. They are of a slightly more rubbery sort of material. And then you've got yourself his boots, which are very nicely strapped on the sides. There's the undersoles, which they've also gone as far as the sculpt, which is nicely also done here as well. Can't overlook as well his belt buckle, which looks like it's been cast in like a silver plastic. Not much in the way of additional paint, but I do like that it's a nice metallic sheen to it. The pants definitely have a very real world feel to them, right down to the individual stitch marks and the fact that they've added a wear, like they've deliberately gone in and wore the pants out a little bit so that areas around the knees, and especially when you start looking at the jacket, you'll start seeing that there's real deliberate wear marks that they've added to the jacket to make it the sense that he's been wearing these for a long period of time. Then you get to his more trademark article of clothing, that is his trench coat, and very nicely presented here. The material, again, feels like it could be a leather material. Like, this is the leather series, so I'm actually curious to know what specific aspects of this figure are leather. I feel perhaps the chaps are, perhaps the pants are. It does feel like the jacket may be, but it does have 2 layers to it. They've stitched the outer area together, and then you've got the individual seams here on the back. As I've discussed already, or wanted to discuss with you, you can see the very nice wear marks that they've added to the fabric, so it does look like this is something he's been wearing for a long period of time. Some slight darker colors make up the shoulder area. Also, some nice little accent areas here, stitched all the way around. The sleeves are slightly rolled up and exposing a little bit of the black undershirt underneath there. Though it doesn't seem as if you can actually lift the collar up, you can, however, flip the figure around to the back here and bring the collar slightly up depending on the look that you're going with. One side I did notice that was untabbed. The reason why I said I don't think you can actually remove or lift the tab is that this section clearly seems like it's been sewn down. So maybe one side of Dante has, or at least the collar end of it, has come away from it, or perhaps maybe glued. The other end seems like it has been stitched in, but I think for displaying the figure, I'm going to bring the collar up ever so slightly, just to kind of give a little extra oomph to it, I think. One nice little feature about the jacket itself is that there's a wireframe. There's a wireframe that looks like it starts like around maybe the mid-torso area and runs all the way down the seam area of the jacket, which means when you are displaying Dante, for example, as I did in the beginning of this review, you can fan the jacket if you want. You can bring the jacket slightly out. You can even curl the jacket to get him in a much more dynamic pose. Couple that with the fact that he's going to have his firearms in his hands, or perhaps his broadsword. I think you can really do some really creative things with this particular figure here. Alright, so we've had a look at the figure. Let's have a look at the accessories that come included with him. I guess we will start with the largest of his accessories, and that being his Sword Rebellion. This is the awakened version, so it has a slight shape variation to it, to how it appeared in Devil May Cry 3. It's got some really nice looking sculpting to it, more importantly around the hilt area where you can see the open skull on the one side and the closed on the other. One thing, though, specifically about this sword that even the instructions indicate, though, is be mindful of the crown or the peaked points around the hilt area or handle area of the sword. These being of a thinner plastic, you definitely do not want to have these bent or broken in the process. Many fans, I'm sure, will want to display Dante holding Rebellion in his hand, or what you can also do too is you can attach the sword to his back. There's a magnet right here embedded into the jacket, so you can just attach it. Sometimes it is difficult to line it up, but you can attach the sword into his back like so, and you can display him with the firearms. Now, actually, I thought prior to the figure being released that they would actually have favored a slot located in the back where you just slide the blade into. This actually is a much safer route to go, because you don't have the risk of potentially breaking the blade as you're pulling the sword out, and you are also not going to be causing damage at all to the jacket. As much as his red trench coat is his trademark look, his trademark weapons of choice are also included here in the 6-scale figure release. Dante gets both ebony and ivory, his semi-automatic rapid-fire pistols. They do appear to be carbon copies to one another, but as far as sculpt-wise, that's as far as they really go, because they have painted them obviously different to one another, and they've gone as far as to write in ebony and ivory on the actual chamber portion of the gun. The handles are slightly painted to give it a wood grain look to it, and though there's nothing really actually moving on it, nor can you remove the clips, they are really nice looking pieces. And like how we looked at in the beginning of this review, you can take the holsters You may have to open them up slightly, and you can house ebony and ivory inside the interior of his jacket. The pistols at times can be a little difficult to get in. It may help yourself to actually just pry the pocket open slightly just so you can fit both pistols in place. And both pistols, ebony and ivory, will slot themselves on the holsters on either side here. Asmus will also give you a series of interchangeable hands as well. Currently defaulted hands. He's got more closer to closed fists. I went ahead already in the beginning of this review and swapped out the closed fists to something a little bit more interesting. But his different hands consist of closed fists, which were defaulted to the figure, a pair of trigger hands, and a series of kind of partially gripping hands. And then he also has slightly more fanned out hands. Or if you want to look at it this way, he also has a pair of relaxed hands as well, if you want to just have them to the side of his body. Something to note as well about the hands themselves are that they are soft, almost rubber-like material. This can be good, or in some regards can also be bad too. They're good in the sense that they're easy to fan open. If you want to get the sword in there, you're not having to struggle as much. At the very least, the last thing you would definitely want to have is any one of these little prong spiked pieces breaking off. So being able to have rubberized hands definitely makes things a lot easier. The only downside to that is by using rubber hands, at times you don't feel like you get as much the solid grip as you would if you had gotten plastic hands instead. And while we're on the topic of hands, they also include a couple of additional pegs. Should any of the pegs break off or be stubborn in the sockets of the hands coming out, you got 2 extra to go with. When it comes to Dante's articulation, his head rotates all the way around. It looks as if, even though it may only appear like he's got one hinge, one ball joint attaching itself into the base of the head, he actually does have a secondary ball joint because the whole torso area here is rubber. So he has one here, but he also has one right here at the base of the neck, which adds some additional posability. It also allows for a very more seamless look from the head down to the torso area, or at the very least from the neck down to the torso area here. His arms will hinge out, very nice actually, and they don't seem restricted by the jacket. A lot of this could be chalked up to the fact that they use a softer material here, so it doesn't feel like it's hindering any bit of the arm movement. Arms hinge out. You can also rotate them forward and back. A swivel at the bicep area, double hinge on the elbow, and you also have a swivel and hinge back and forth on the hands. Now, talking back about the rubberized hands, you do feel like there's a little bit less stability. I don't want to say stability, but when you are posing the hands, because they are rubber, they feel like they snap back a little bit more than maybe one would want. The upper torso does have a crunch, as well as you've got your waist swivel. As well to that, you've also got the split on the legs, a forward and back motion, bend at the knee, not to mention as well you've got the upper torso swivel cut on the thigh. And when it comes to the feet, these don't limit or hinder any sort of the movement to the feet, so you've got a good range of motion, both an ankle pivot and a forward and back rocking. So just looking up on Asmus Toys' website, the Premier leather, just to clarify, will be both in Dante's pants as well as his jacket, just in case anybody was wondering. It's not to say that they couldn't have gone the route of using a faux leather. I know the banner that they're using this line is the Premier leather line, but they could have easily also used a faux leather, and I don't think it would have detracted at all by how awesome Dante turned out. Going back also to the fabric, I also like that they went with the route of weathering or slightly aging the material. So it does look like it's something that Dante has been wearing for a long period of time and not just simply put on. The head sculpt is really nicely done. In fact, everything comes together great on this particular figure. The only smallest of nitpicks I could come up with is that the hands are a little on the soft side, which can be beneficial and slightly critical to the figure because at the very least, you can get the hands to wrap around the weapons very easily, especially around the sword. That's the last thing you would want to be fighting to get into a hand. But on the other end of it, at times, especially with the sword, it doesn't feel like he's got the firmest of grips on it. As for the stand adjustable neck, is one thing I find pops out a little too frequently, which is a simple fix. I can easily just glue that into place. It's not as if I'm ever going to want to take that off of the stand itself. So really, there's nothing I would change to have changed to this figure. The head sculpt is good. The real leather outfit is nice touch, but like I said, they could have gone the route of a faux leather instead. Everything comes together very nicely. This is exactly what I would have wanted for a Dante 6-scale figure. Having seen how well Asmus Toys handled this property, the Devil May Cry, the immediate thing that I went to while reviewing and also in final looks here, the one figure I'd love to see them approach next is a Bayonetta. I know I kind of said that during the course of this review. Bayonetta, I mean, is one of my all-time favorite games. I'd love to see, having seen now how well they handled this figure, I think they could do an astonishing job when it comes to a Bayonetta, and I don't know if licensing will ever allow them the chance to do a Bayonetta figure, but hopefully, knock on wood, we may see a similar treatment done with a Bayonetta figure. Not to take anything away from Dante, talking about Bayonetta and talking about other figures that they should be approaching, this figure I would really highly recommend for fans who grew up with the Devil May Cry series, or maybe new to the franchise. Either way, it's a really bang-up looking figure, and I'm so pleasantly happy to have this guy on display. He is going to be released, by the way, this is the regular version that we were looking at. He's going to be released Q1 or Q1 of 2018, so he should be probably going to be coming out in the next little while. The price point, and this is the best part, the price point on Dante is going to be about $190 US, which if you compare it to other 6-scale companies, $190 is not bad at all. You get a lot of times female figure molds, which are a lot smaller in size, for about $190 to a $200 price point. So Asmus Toys keeps the cost down, which allows collectors like yourself and myself to be able to pick up these glorious pieces for themselves and add them to their collection. So I'll provide the link down below to Asmus Toys. Like I said, it should, I think it's even out now, if you guys are interested in picking this up for yourself. Asmus Toys will have a buy it option on their website, so again, highly recommend if you guys want to pick it up for yourself. Today we were having a look at the regular version of the Asmus Toys Devil May Cry 4 Dante. This was the 1/6 scale collectible action figure. To check out also more from Asmus Toys, head over to www.asmustoys.com. That's also the place where you can get this guy for yourself if you're interested. And many more videos will be coming your way onto this channel. And make sure you also hit that little subscribe button down below so you'll never miss a beat when future videos come onto this channel. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you next time.